In the previous videos, we looked at the overwhelming quantity of peer-reviewed articles in psychology and how fast this quantity is growing, with one every 4 minutes. We have also noted that psychology uses many different words for similar or theoretically overlapping concepts. And both of these, the rapid growth of articles and the anarchistic nature of psychology, make it alarmingly difficult to find an adequate and complete answer to a scientific question, to find the state of the art for that question. Finally, I discussed the serious and unethical consequences of not knowing the state of the art in one's own field. Inadequate reviews and introductions, poor citing practices, redundant studies, and an increase of confusion by inventing new concepts. I called not knowing the state of the art a form of academic self-harm, but also harm to society. It's partly responsible for keeping the popular media overflowing with erroneous and confusing non-scientific claims. So, what to do? First, in this video, I will discuss the wrong solutions, to get that out of the way. It should be clear by now that using internet's general searching machines will not work. But also scientific books are only of limited value. They hardly ever contain systematic literature searches, and they are often not or inadequately peer-reviewed. And then, surprisingly perhaps for some of you, Google Scholar is also not of much help. There are multiple reasons for this. First, Google Scholar is not restricted to peer-reviewed journals. It also peeks into lots of other articles, personal websites, books, conference presentations and other so-called grey literature. It uses a rather fuzzy form of Boolean logic. It is severely limited when it comes to articles that are older than 1990. Its notion of relevance is based on the number of citations, which is not quite the same. And it provides personalized results, which is exactly not what you want as a scientist, and so on. Google Scholar is not taken care for by living humans, let alone scientists. It's just an algorithm. A simple example illustrates how unhelpful it is. Let's type in stress and Facebook use. In Web of Science we get 63 hits, which is very easy to check. Google Scholar gives more than 8,000 hits, most of which are without any clear scientific status, and far too many to inspect anyway. Jerry Gray coined the term Google Scholarish, which goes without saying. These sources will undoubtedly give you an answer, but not the answer. And to get the answer you need the peer-reviewed sources. Of course, you are free to use any source for exploration, for example to get better keywords. So, Google Scholar may be good for a lot of things, but not for the state of the art. The peer-reviewed sources that I recommend for a psychologist are Web of Science, PsycInfo or PubMed. Let's go back to the wrong solutions. One wrong habit that seems to be as widespread as using Google Scholar, but is in fact far more silly, is only looking at the research findings from the past few years, for example the last 5 years. But since when are the most important discoveries made only in the last 5 years? And which last 5 years? Before now? Certainly most of my work would suddenly be irrelevant. Why not the last 5 years of the last century? And what to think of the next 5 years? In 1999, many lists appeared with the most important scientific findings of that century, and nearly all of the most important findings in psychology appear to be from before the 1980s. For example, Pavlov's dog, Milgram's obedience experiments, Harlow's monkeys and so forth. Clearly, if we don't look further back than the last couple of years, we potentially miss a large body of relevant studies, also about our own topic of research. An example of forgotten research is the following. Many psychologists still seem to think that expressing your negative emotions is healthy and good on itself. However, crucial studies from the 1960s from Jack Hokanson showed that this is not the case. And these studies seem to be forgotten. Later studies also debunk the idea, but they are not broadly used as well. And the myth seems to live on. Of course, it's important. It's even essential to include the last years in your search to get the true state of the art. But it would be very wrong to leave out earlier studies. You simply cannot trust recent articles to build on all relevant research before them, unless these articles include systematic searches, and that is still very rare. Much more frequently, they don't look back sufficiently far in the past. So, bite the bullet. You want all answers to your question, all relevant articles. And if you find too many articles for the time that you have to inspect them, there are better ways to narrow down your search. I will come back to this later. Let's now turn toward better solutions in the next video.